Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, July 10. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. The body of a teacher was found this morning at her home in Melrose Mews, Manchester. She has been identified as CARLEENE Davis Campbell, a teacher of the Bishop Gibson High School in the parish. Residents told our news team that approximately 1 o'clock, loud screams and gunshots were heard. One of her neighbors says she was about to call Mrs. Davis Campbell by phone when she was interrupted by someone banging on her door.
And the husband came in and told me that she shot. That gunman came in, kicked off the door, and shot her.
Neighbors say when they went to the scene of the crime, they found Mrs. Campbell's body face down in a pool of blood on the floor of her house. A man was shot and killed in Rocky Point, Clarendon, Tuesday afternoon. Reports indicate that the victim, 29-year-old Darren Taylor, was walking along Key Lane when he was attacked. He was taken to the hospital by the police but was pronounced dead on arrival. His death is the latest in a series of violent attacks plaguing that parish. A deadly house fire last night on Bay Farm Road in St. Andrew has left a 1-year-old baby dead and a family in mourning. We have the details in this report.
Look upon my baby there. Right there's my baby there. The baby are black and care them. The star God left me. The star that you know, brother. You know, I cherish my youth.
A grieving father mourning the death of his 1-year-old son, Namar Facey. This is where Namar died in a house fire at 194 Bay Farm Road in St. Andrew Tuesday night. The charred furniture helped to tell the tale. TVJ News understands that Namar's mother, Cassandra Brown, left him at home with her 17-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old relative.
I beat off my little boy in my sleep, put him down, left my big daughter, figure eye upon him. Anyway, me call him my little 6-year-old into the house and tell her lie down side her brother. Me tell she figure eye upon my son, upon them, and me I go down the road, go buy something. So they go down the road now, me I come back, me see she around mommy, the baby on fire.
By the time she got back to the house, it was too late. It's reported that the 5-year-old was playing with matches under the bed when it caught fire.
I feel because if me come and me see my son safe and the thing then burn up, I wouldn't feel that bad. We can't remember life that the things them is vanity. I feel bad if I know I lose my son. If God could have told me I lose my son. I can't believe.
5 houses were affected by the fire, leaving 20 persons homeless, including 8 children.
At the moment, the family lost bed, dresser, a lot of clothes stuff items. Some families save some stuff, but not a lot. At the moment, I'm pleading with other organizations to come on board and help this family from Bay Farm Road.
No, it's very, very disheartening, you know. The loss of a life, more so a child, it is just hard to deal with, you know. But we will have to try our best and console the family the best way we can, because there are other young ones here too, you know. So it's not about just coming to the fire scene, hearing what has happened, and to turn our backs like that. I am going to ensure that action is taken the best way possible, as it relates to, you know, they're getting back on their feet.
OSHANE Masters, TVJ News.
Parliament yesterday approved resolutions to 3 critical pieces of legislation aimed at giving the police added powers to fight crime. The laws that were amended are the Interception of Communications Act, the Proceeds of Crime Act, the Law Reform Fraudulent Transactions Act, and the Criminal Justice Suppression of Criminal Organizations Act. Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang, who tabled the resolutions, said the amendments will strengthen the capacity of the police to apply to the court for permission to intercept the telephone calls of suspected gang members and lottery scammers. He outlined the offenses for which the permission can be sought.
A, forming or establishing criminal organization. B, recruiting child to criminal organization. Recruitment of adult to criminal organization. Providing benefit to or obtaining a benefit from a criminal organization. And aiding and abetting a criminal organization.
He said where investigations show anyone benefits from a criminal lifestyle, the courts will have added power to seize their assets.
These assumptions include the assumption that any property which the person obtained 10 years prior to being charged for the offense was obtained as a result of his or her general conduct, general criminal conduct. That allows you, as indicated, members, to look back 10 years in his life, whatever he has obtained as a result of criminal conduct. The evidential burden in these circumstances shifts to the defendant to satisfy the court that the property was legitimately obtained.
After years of promise, the sexual harassment bill has now been tabled in Parliament. The bill was tabled yesterday by Gender Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange and is to undergo the scrutiny of parliamentarians. It proposes to protect males and females from unwelcome sexual advances in the workplace or any other institution. In its current state, the bill requires employers or persons in charge of an institution to draft a sexual harassment policy and to take action to deal with issues when they arise. Employers or heads of institutions who fail to deal with a sexual harassment complaint will be held liable for the failure to act. Persons who feel dissatisfied with the action against complaints of sexual harassment will be able to take the matter to a tribunal consisting of 12 persons. And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back, continuing the news. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips says the dependence of the government on states of emergency to combat crime is misplaced. Dr. Phillips claims that the country's police officers are under-equipped to fulfill their duties because of a lack of resources as the taxpayers' dollar is being swindled by corrupt government officials. This, he suggests, puts the People's National Party in good standing with the Jamaican people. Prince Moore has the details.
Because we are not going to tolerate this robbery of the people's resources that is taking place with this Jamaica Labour Party government.
No one crying out for justice, says Dr. Peter Phillips. He argues that the government is robbing taxpayers of their money. Pointing to recent scandals involving former Education Minister Ruel Reid, Dr. Phillips suggested that the standards by which these investigations are being conducted are not the same which would apply to the average Jamaican.
Now, hear me what upset me most about the way this matter is being handled. You see, for anybody inside there, where them say you're guilty of some wrongs, them lock you up long time, and then them say them going to continue their investigation.
He also criticized the government for its continued use of states of emergency to tackle crime, describing the Andrew Holness-led administration as a gearbox with only 2 speeds. This after expressing support of the newly imposed state of emergency in the St. Andrew South Police Division.
The embarrassment. When it comes to crime, hear me now. 7 state of emergency in a year and a half. 7. And criminals still walking the street with impunity all over. It's as if the government have 2 speed. Slow and state of emergency when it comes to crime control.
His final statements at the East Central St. Catherine meeting were geared towards the upcoming election.
I just want to deal with one more thing, because as Keisha says, it's not a night for a long speech. But I don't want you to go out and follow no propaganda like the PNP is not prepared and ready for victory.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, PNP Member of Parliament Lisa Hanna has thrown her support behind Dr. Peter Phillips' suggestion that the PNP is ready for the upcoming election. She denounced claims she said have been brought to her attention.
So, comrades, there's a little noise that is out in the atmosphere, giving the impression that the People's National Party cannot win the next election. It is a lie from the pit of hell.
Ms. Hanna listed activities Dr. Phillips had been involved in to support her claim of him being the only person capable of achieving a PNP victory. The St. Anne South East MP also took a jab at presidential challenger, saying he's not a team player.
I am beside him. If him look behind him, I'm behind him. If him look to him left, I am there. But I am not the only one, because a leader can't lead a party by himself. He need a team. So anybody coming to you to tell you that him is a savior of the People's National Party, him won, it can't work. Who is the leader to take down the Jamaica Labour Party? Do we and should we remove Peter David Phillips? Because he's our best chance to remove the Jamaica Labour Party.
Now, the government is being cautioned against divesting Petrojam's terminal operations to the private sector. The warning comes from opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Powell, during yesterday's sitting of the House of Representatives. Mr. Powell said he was hoping he would be able to make presentations to the reconstituted National Energy Council as well as the Economy and Production Committee of Parliament, which will be examining recommendations for Petrojam's future.
I'm hoping at the first meeting of the Energy Council I will have some audience, because I would like to comment on just two aspects of the report that we have received so far in a fulsome way. The recommendation for divestment to the private sector in relation to the refinery operations, and I wouldn't have a difficulty with that. The difficulty I have is with divestment as a terminal. I think it is a strategic asset and it should not be divested to the private sector.
In the meantime, Energy Minister Favour Williams insisted the proceedings should not drag on.
On this side, we have no objection to the report being discussed at the Economic and Production Committee. We only want to caution that the debate should not be viewed as unending, because we believe that the people of Jamaica are impatient of talking and impatient of debate. And so while we will allow it, while we have no objection, we'd like the member to bear this in mind as that process commences.
Shadow spokesman for Development and Planning, Anthony Hilton, says the current National Spatial Plan is in urgent need of updating. In his sectoral presentation in Parliament, Mr. Hilton argued that what currently exists leaves much to be desired.
The exercise repeats the inherent weaknesses of the first two national plans, in that they both lack a clear national policy strategy to inform the national priorities in both the design and implementation of these plans.
To this end, he's proposing a review of the Urban Development Corporation and the Factories Corporation of Jamaica. According to Mr. Hilton, a review commission should be established to guide the process.
I'm proposing that the UDC and the FCJ be the subject of a thoroughgoing review, with the objective of merging aspects of these two agencies to form the National Physical Planning Authority, which, along with the planning function currently being done by NEPA under the Town and Country Planning Act, be subsumed by this proposed new planning authority.
An admission from a tourism stakeholder that the advent of technology has taken away their business, especially that of travel agencies. They say increasingly, Jamaicans and tourists are making their travel plans themselves using phones or other technological gadgets. However, there is a warning to holiday seekers from the Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, TEF, CAREY WALLACE, on how they can avoid ruining their trips.
What I like about travel agents, though, is that they have more acute knowledge of the product. And so they can guide you. They are more almost counselors that can guide you and to choose that experience. Because remember, in most cases, you pay for the experience before you experience it. So, and you give up your time as well, which is valuable, to then go on the holiday or the excursion. So if you make a mistake and choose the wrong one and have a bad experience, that time can be replaced and you would have wasted a lot of money and so on. So therefore it makes sense that to avoid that risk, you then consult experts.
The TEF's executive director also weighed in on the ongoing debate about regularizing the Airbnb. There were suggestions the sector could be taxed. However, the Minister of Tourism has since dismissed that argument. Mr. Carey believes a conversation needs to be started about how to make the sector better.
There's always a mistrust of authorities, based on our history over the years. And so the perception is, oh, you're boxing the bread out of the little man kind of thing. But from a tourism standpoint, that's the furthest from our minds. We want to facilitate. We want to see it grow, continue the rate of growth that it's been experiencing. In a country like Jamaica, any tourist that gets hurt affects the entire brand. And so you want to try and ensure that, and everybody should feel that sense of responsibility that, there should be some minimum standards.
And it's time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at cancer care in Jamaica.
I think what's frustrating is not for me personally, but for the people I look after who really need somewhere to be cared for. Often folks have to be discharged from hospital to difficult circumstances because there's no palliative care either in the community and there's no physical building, hospice type place where they could continue to be cared for. So it's painful for me to see my patients suffering because there's not enough facilities to really care for them.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. A cancer hospice offers personalized care and support, gives patients a sense of dignity, lessens financial burdens, and provides family counseling.
We go down to sports as New Zealand are through to their second straight ICC World Cup final after an 18-run win over India in their rain-affected semi-final at Old Trafford today. Resuming on 211 for 5, New Zealand added 28 runs off the final 3 overs to reach 239 for 8. Ross Taylor made 74 after adding 7 to his overnight 67. Bhuvneshwar Kumar finished with 3 for 43 for India. In reply, India were struggling at 92 for 6 after 30 overs, but MS Dhoni and Ravindra Jadeja shared a 116-run 7th-wicket partnership to 208, needing just 13 runs to win with 18 balls to spare. However, Jadeja fell for 77 and Dhoni was run out for 50 as India were eventually bowled out at 221. Now, man of the match, Matt Henry, led the way for the New Zealand bowlers with 3 for 37, while Trent Boult and Michelle Santer taking 2 wickets apiece. New Zealand now await the winner of the second semi-final on Thursday, where hosts England battle Australia. And that's the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.